to week 3 of restorative movement training. We're going to be building off of one of our topics from last week, which was what is fitness. Before we dive into that, John, I know you had a pressing story that you wanted to dive into.
100%, man. So this past Thursday, I just completed my NCSF Certified Strength Coach certification.
Nice.
I just smashed
Congrats.
it. I just completed it. Thank you. I passed it. It was very, very challenging, you guys. So this is probably the hardest test I've ever taken, literally harder than writing my thesis during nutrition, harder than even my CSCS test that I taken 10 years ago.
And the backstory on it, right, like, stop me if I'm wrong, but the backstory was basically you're having to go out and get these credentials because of all of the screw ups from COVID was messing up your recertifications from other companies, right?
Exactly. So essentially I had to scramble. So this is typically a 6-month course minimum, and I crammed it in 2 months, give or take, probably less, because as you guys know, I have kids. So it's not like I can okay, guys, I'm going to go study now. Just be quiet. So it was really, really, I don't recommend doing that. I probably won't do anything like that ever again, but it was a great certification. I do want to share with you kind of leading up to the test. So I took my test on Thursday, and on Wednesday, my wife and I had such a stressful environment with our kids, right? It was just, I won't get into the details, but it was very stressful. And right after that, I took my practice exam, and I completely bombed it, dude.
Oh.
It was the first time I've ever, literally, I think it's the first time I've ever failed a test. I've gotten like really low C's. I maybe had 1 D my entire life, but this one I just bombed. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is because this is a clear example, a perfect example of like your mental clarity, your mental mindset. Like, I know my stuff, but I was so stressed, and I had to do this practice test because you only have a 24-hour window before your real test. And so I had to take it, and it was, I just couldn't focus, dude. I feel like every question, I feel like a dumbass essentially. So anyhow, so I failed it. I was literally depressed, and I turned to my wife, dude, I failed this test. She's like, what? So I'm like, I know I failed this test. The next day, fast forward, I was late to my exam, so I was 15 minutes late to my exam. So I was already stressy. My camera, the video cam wasn't working because they're watching you and whatnot. And it was just very stressful. And I had my cup of tea next to me. I couldn't drink tea. I couldn't wear my watch. It just kind of threw me off all over the place. So 15 minutes late, turned into like 30 minutes behind schedule. And it's a 3-hour test. So, you know, I was already taking the final exam with my heart racing. Anyhow, I passed the exam, but halfway through the test, though, I said to myself, "Oh my God, I'm gonna fail this test." It was so hard, you guys. So anyhow, I did crush it. I went way above the medium. I scored an 85. You need a 70. There you go. You need a 70, but it literally was excruciating. Like, mentally, it was a total like mind F-bomb. And you know, I felt like every question was literally pretty close. It could be the right answer. Usually you can do like the process of elimination, like it's either A or D. This one was like, A sounds good, C sounds good too, but B, how about B? But D looks pretty convincing too. There wasn't many freebies, you know, like the ones that kind of stick out. But anyhow, man, so I passed it. So for those of you out there listening and you want to up your game in terms of becoming a certified strength coach, it's a different take on strength coaching certification. I know CSCS is kind of like a big one, but this one literally is kind of more up to date. It goes deep into like sled training, plyometrics, Olympic lifting, but it goes deep. So it's not just theoretical. There's a big practicality component to it too. And it teaches you they call it traditional programming, as what most coaches do, versus they call it integrated training program. So anyhow, it's a great certification, and you know, I don't make anything out of it, but I highly encourage people to kind of take it if you want to kind of up your skill set. So
you better get on that. Get affiliate ships. Start making some cash off it. Man.
Yeah, man. How much are they paying you to hype them up like that?
Yeah, I know, it's zero, dude. Just a great search. But anyhow, that was my experience, and I'm glad I passed it, and I'm never going to cram anything ever again, whether it's something smaller. But
you say that now, but
I know, right? I know.
Is that a certification typically always done online, or is there usually an in-person component?
Great question. Because of COVID, they had the option of taking it at home, but there's a lot of parameters. There's like it's pretty intense, to be honest. Like, you got to check in ahead of time. There's an interview process. You show your ID. There can be no one in the house, and they have to do like a camera scan of the table that you're sitting on. You have to scan underneath the table.
Wow.
You have to scan your chair underneath your chair. You can't wear a watch. You can't wear a hat. It's nuts, dude. And if they hear any other noises or tapping noises, you get 3 tries or 3 basically flags for them to say, hey, knock that out. And if after the 3rd time, they just cut you loose, dude. But it was pretty intense. So.
My history class for college did that, and I'm like, really? Like, come on. U.S. history is not this important. We're like, above and beyond. Ridiculous. But anyways, Taylor, you've been working on anything new?
Yeah, same old, man. I've been working on my at-home workouts, about 3 or 4 times a week. Something I did mess with this previous week was up my mileage and running. So my first running day was on Monday, so I ran about 7 that day. And then Wednesday I ran again, and I pushed for about 8. Really no set time or goal with that. I just wanted to push my body a little bit further to see how I can go, or how much I can go. Yeah. So I ran 8 on Wednesday, 8 on Friday, and then today I just ran 11 miles with my uncle, and that's the furthest I've ran in honestly ever. Yeah, that's my very first time running over 10 miles. So yeah, I'm going to sleep great tonight.
Well, terrible, man. Are you still going to start transitioning into trying to do like tempo runs and paces and all that sort of fun stuff?
Yeah. So kind of ironically, so one of my goals is to run a marathon. Long-term goals to get down to Boston, do the Boston Marathon. But right now I'm trying to work on a more local marathon. Obviously, given COVID, there's really no set date for any upcoming marathons. So I think once things start slowing down and I have a better understanding of when they're going to start allowing marathons to happen again, then I'll start doing more tempo training, lactate threshold training, along with my long runs as well. So
gotcha.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, at least we've got this free time now where you can kind of have pretty much a whole entire year to prep, and then fingers crossed things return to normal in 2021 and you can start booking some stuff.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we're all going to be hurting. But backtracking a little bit to today's primary topic. So last week, we kind of briefly discussed what is fitness, and we found out we all had a tremendous amount to say on the topic. So scaled it back to bare bones. We're going to take the next couple of weeks to continue to build off of that. But of course, the first thing when defining fitness is figuring out what your individual goals are. So when you're working through it with yourself or with clients, what's your process for helping them or you determine your why behind what you're doing? John, we'll let you go ahead and start first.
Yeah, so on last week's episode, we were talking about how I look at it from a big perspective. So let me kind of even dumb it down even simpler. So the first thing to look at is blood work. So I teach my clients very simply, dude. We're not trying to complicate things, but we'll look at a typical comprehensive blood panel. So we just look at triglycerides, HDL, and LDL. So that's the first thing I look for, no matter the goal. So whether it's a young buck, an older individual, whatever. So we look at the health of the blood, because that can essentially paint the picture of their overall health, right? Their nutrition and their mobility, their activity. So we look at HDL. So what I'm trying to teach my clients is like, look, we want to shoot for north of 65, give or take, for HDL. For triglycerides, we want to keep it under, 99-ish, 90-ish for the most part. And then LDL is just kind of questionable. What I'm trying to say here is we start with blood work first, because that's going to paint the picture too in terms of like what they're eating and what they're claiming to be eating. So you can't be vegan, healthy vegan, or healthy paleo, whatever it is that you're eating, and then your blood work spitting out the complete opposite number. So what I'm trying to connect here is say, hey, look, here's what you're telling me, here's what your blood's kind of looking at. And we give like realistic targets to see improvements. So we start with just educating the individual on relating the goal with their health, so their blood composition. From there, I teach my clients the importance of body fat. And we talked about this too last week is, I'm a big believer these days, you guys, that, to be super lean isn't the ticket, or it should be discouraged too, because it takes a lot of work and effort to be super lean. Not to say you
Like
can't get there.
You have the corner on the market for that. Just shred it, fit that.
But I'm always like, literally, that's why I usually start with health and blood work. And then from there, we go into body fat percentage. And I give them some percentages of like, okay, here's like best, where you want to be at and not so great at. I typically want to bring my clients in the middle because, you know, lots of times too, my clients will tend to change their mind. They might say, hey, you know, we talked about this last week, but I may want to lose 20 pounds. And then, you know, a quarter away through the program, they might say, hey, I feel pretty good at 10 pounds. Can I still be healthy maintaining with this 10-pound loss? Of course you can. But body fat's a great indicator too, because we want to make sure we're away from just being overly fat in that particular category. So kind of educate my clients with that. And if you're in that middle category, then you feel great, your blood health, your blood markers and your blood work looks fantastic, then dude, you're winning. You can change your mind at any time you want, and you shouldn't be disappointed about that too. The last thing I look at too is kind of like mental health. You know, are you happy? We talked about, you know, it's very seldomly when you see someone who's super fit and healthy and just depressed, right? You're usually going to see the opposite too. So I'm always encouraging my coaching program is no matter what we're doing, no matter what you're consuming nutrition wise, how do you feel? Is there a smile on your face or you're constantly frowning? So we look at those three factors and I really just kind of implement those because we talk about fitness becoming a lifestyle. So that's the three pillars that I tend to add more, but those are the three main ones that I tend to just focus on and get my clients to buy in on. And I would say, and this is not, you know, just stroking myself, but it's 90% of the time, if you're just focusing just on that,
hands up, bro.
it's really going to work, dude. So it's really going to get you the results that you need. So.
Gotcha. So correct me if I misunderstood, but it sounds like for you when you're working with clients, you have your three baseline established pillars where it's like, okay, these are the measurable goals for blood work, for body fat, and for mental health. Once you hit and attain those three goals, then you can dive a little bit more into the individual, like I want to do a pull-up or that sort of stuff. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, you can incorporate that in between too, but you know, that's to be able to do like, I want to do 10 pull-ups. That's a kind of a very small percentage, but during those three pillars, you can accomplish a lot. I'm still sneaking in the cool pull-up drills and whatnot, but yeah, I'm talking about just overall reaching your health and fitness goals. If we just focus on those three and you understand each, you're going to win the majority of the time. I mean, I haven't really had much failure with that. I mean, it's usually just my clients understand that and they're like, I didn't know that. So we get a lot of positive results with that.
Gotcha. Okay. Nice. So identifying, crushing, and foundations first, getting into advancement second. Perfect. Taylor, what is your process for setting goals for yourself, for helping your clients find and achieve their goals?
Yeah. So end of the day, I always just start with why. So, you know, I had a client come up to me and said, hey, you know, I'm weighing at 180 right now. I want to lose 10 pounds, want to trim off some body fat. And I want to look good for my grandkids, you know? And I say, okay, awesome. So why does this matter to you? And then, you know, obviously we kind of just go from there. The reason why I enjoy starting with why above anything else is because, you know, I'm sure the three of us can attest that fitness is a commitment. And not only, you know, you got to be committed, driven, and it can take a mental toll on you sometimes, right? So for me personally, my own personal experience and working with my clients, if we reiterate why we're doing this, then it just helps the commitment and re-motivates the drive and gets them pushing through their workout and going on with their program. So that's why I like starting with why. Yes, I agree. Going from there, you know, so we take like the main goal, right? So we go back to one of my clients who wants to lose 10 pounds. You know, like I'll kind of talk about the science behind it and kind of realistic expectations and what's going to take to get there. And then we'll break those, that goal down to smaller chunks, right? So hey, you know, by this and this date, we're going to have you at 175, you know, and then small victories along the way lead to an even bigger victory. And then once we get to his final goal, we, you know, set pace for the next goal. So I would say that's my my method is finding out their why, what's driving them, and just constantly just building off that and reaffirming so we keep them motivated, and then breaking down that big goal into just smaller chunks along the way.
Perfect. Yeah, personally, I like to take a blend of what both you guys are doing. I mean, I think you both hit on a lot of really important points. And especially, you know, as coaches, obviously, we do have to provide some framework for our clients. So as Taylor said, if somebody comes to you with the goal of like, hey, I want to be healthier to stick around for my grandkids, keep up the energy levels, that sort of stuff. How do you track and make that fitness, right? Because if we go by the fitness community standards of, you know, the jacked dude with six pack or the girl with the huge glutes, and we define that as fitness, somebody that's looking to improve their energy is never going to be technically fit because that's just not realistic or attainable for them, right? So you find their why, you figure out how to track and help them achieve their individual goal and individual ideal of fitness. And then as coaches, we can also come in and provide the framework of, yeah, what you're doing is great, but your cholesterol is garbage. So we should probably adjust some numbers here and there.
Sure.
So I think, you know, taking a combined approach of each, if you're an individual struggling on figuring out how to stay committed to a program, it's more likely than not that you're not investing your time in something that truly matters to you, right? Because I'm sure both of you can agree that if you find something that actually really, really matters to you, you're going to go out and achieve it no matter what. If you're just dieting for the sake of dieting, you're going to quit a week or two in because, you know, dieting sucks.
True.
True. John, it looks
I think
like
there
you're
was
interested
I think it was called like the 90% compliance rule or something like that. I could be butchering it, but it's essentially you pick one thing and you ask your client like, okay, can you add a serving of vegetables with each meal? Like, yeah, I can do that, but are you 90% sure you can do that? And that's a good way to kind of gauge your clients, because if it's anything less than 90, then you know that it's too difficult for them. So then you want to scale it back. And you can apply that compliance rule with virtually anything, you know, sleep habits, nutrition, exercise. I mean, literally anything. And it's just a lot slower approach, but it really just, you know, you got to talk to your client and just be honest. Hey, if you're going to struggle with anything about this, then let's just scale it back even further. But that's a great way to have something super specific and super measurable. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you increase the compliance rate by helping tie into their why, right?
Exactly.
And also, like you said, it is a slower process, but that's what creates the life change. Because if you're sitting at home and you're a 45-year-old and you're out of shape, you got to think, you know, it took you 45 years to get to where you're at. A 30-day healthy living challenge isn't going to flip things around for you.
Definitely, right.
Definitely. It is going to take time. So if you figure out ways to incorporate that into your life long term, that's where the change truly happens.
Yeah.
Any other points that you two would like to highlight before we transition into our Q&A today?
No, I think that was pretty spot on, at least in my opinion. I don't know if Jonathan had anything.
No, everything's pretty spot on. But on a side note, what's your guys' take on like those quick fixes, right? So we're seeing less and less. Well, they're still out there, but less and less 30 days now. 12-week cycles. Now I'm starting to read more things of like 6 months, which I'm starting to lean more towards, because let's be honest, we want to see like immediate change, right? As a client, we want to see quick change. So we know as coaches that 30 days is just way too fast. I mean, you're barely scratching the surface. And then 12 weeks used to be like the main block of, you can see a lot of change. We make all these promises. Well, we don't, but a lot of coaches make all these big promises. In 12 weeks, you're going to change your life. But now you're starting to read more and more like, actually, we're looking at 6 months, which as a client, you're like, dude, I don't got that much time. But if you think about it, kind of what we're talking about, like, yeah, 6 months sounds about right to like legitimately make a complete flip. We're talking about from habits to sleep to stress to nutrition to actually letting your body adjust to the workout stimulus. Yeah, what do you guys take on that, on the 6 months versus the 12 weeks?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and start, and then Taylor, if you want to jump in as well too, feel free. There's just a lot of stuff that I have a lot of opinions on this subject for sure. So, the pros to the short-term challenges, right? It develops a phenomenal community aspect. If you get 40 people and you're like, oh, let's see how much weight we can lose in a month, that can be a cool way to kickstart things. It's not necessarily healthy, but it creates that community, and community is super, super crucial in long-term health. right?
Right.
So I do enjoy the challenges from that perspective. My qualms with it is that it sets up the idealism that you can make that drastic of changes in that amount of time, right?
Exactly.
And so when those changes don't happen, you end up just bouncing from thing to thing to thing, and you do a lot of damage to your body. And it also fries your mindset to where it's like, okay, I have to be perfect for these 30 days. So let's say last month, for example, you know, since we're in August and obviously we haven't had any time to do anything, but I had, you know, several birthdays and a couple of outing events. If I was on a 30-day challenge for my own birthday, I wouldn't have been able to go out and eat. How are you going to enjoy your life, and how is that going to foster long-term mental well-being?
Yeah.
If I'm sitting at home on my birthday, like, God, time to drink another fiber shake, like, yes. So I really don't like the mental aspects of the short-term challenges. I like the community aspect, but the long-term mental effects of getting super invested in those 30 days, I think is going to do a lot more harm than good.
Right. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
The buy-in for that quick, like, yeah, I'm in. All right, so, you know, let's use that, but let's stretch it out.
All right, Taylor, I think you had some things. You looked like you were ready to chime in as well.
No, man. Yeah, you basically hit on everything that I think for those short-term challenges. For me, the big thing is just maintenance, right? So I look at, hey, can we maintain this for 30 days and beyond, you know? And like you said, it's like, hey, for this whole month of, you know, previous July, you can't even celebrate your birthday, you know? And I mean, yeah, dude, I in my opinion, like, I know I won't be able to maintain a 30-day challenge just because, like, I love food. I love celebrating. I love letting myself go every now and then, right? But yeah, so John, to go back to what you were asking, I think 6 months is definitely more, in my opinion, more realistic to see some kind of change and to adapt to those changes that we try to teach our clients, just based on and stuff I've seen in myself and my own clients as well.
So how do we package you guys, how do we make it more sexy to promote 6 months, right? Because that sounds like, fuck, 6 months. Even me, right? If I'm going to do like a program, like, okay, welcome to the 6-month program, like, damn, that's a long time. So what do you guys think? How will we package it and make it look very attractive? Because if you say 30 days, it's like, I'm in, count me in, 30 days, I'm in. But what would you say?
It really comes down to the education behind it, right? So one more note that I did want to add into that is, you know, apply that mindset and philosophy to literally anything else in your life, like a romantic relationship or your job. Like, I'm going to be perfect for 30 days, and then I'm going to get a promotion and coast for the rest of my life. No.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, right. So it comes down to the education on the part of us to explain to our clients that, like, look, there's a long-term lifestyle change. And then backtracking a little bit, you know, with the goal setting, obviously we all know that there's a hypertrophy range, typically about 8 to 12 weeks, whenever you're on a weightlifting program, cardio program, etc., that you want to transition phases, right? So for me, that's how I break it down. It's like, okay, within these 8 weeks, we're going to look to add 10 pounds on your bench press or lose 4 pounds or whatever that short-term goal may be. And then at the end of the 8 weeks, we reassess and continue. It's like, okay, we did strength training. Now we're going to focus on conditioning. We're going to improve your heart health and lose another 4 pounds. So you get them to realize the importance of the long-term goal. And then you create those short-term programs to help them achieve that long-term goal.
I like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing. You know, I think it kind of just goes back to what I was saying earlier about starting with that why. Like, why is this your long-term goal? Find that long-term goal, and then doing just little checkpoints along the way, if you will. Like, all right, so by the end of 3 weeks, we're gonna have you right here, and then the next 3 weeks you're gonna be right here, and kind of just chip away at that goal. So 6 months goes by like just like that, you know, and then boom, there we go. 6 months felt like 30 days, you know, because we have these small victories piling in throughout the training program.
It gives you more of a timeline. So when you're kind of outlining the goals, yeah, that makes sense. You have more to chime in and they have more to take home and look at, like, oh, look, 3 weeks, as opposed to 4 weeks, and that's it. So
Exactly. And it goes back to what we were saying too about, like, kind of like that mental health. It's like, okay, like, I'm not at my goal of being like 150, but hey, I lost like 10 pounds in about 4 weeks. I'm well on my way. I'm getting stronger. I feel better. I'm moving better. Like, this is good. This is gonna be a good journey, you know?
Yeah.
So this just keeps them invested in, again, mental is such a big thing with any kind of fitness journey.
Yeah. And it just, the education behind that is what's so important, because getting people to realize and understand that, you know, you're not going to work out for even 6 months. You're not going to work out for those 6 months and then be good for the rest of your life, right? Health, finances, mental health, you know, well-being, relationships, everything in life is not going to just be completed and then done with, right? If you want to look and feel a certain way, this is something that you're going to be doing for forever, right?
Yep.
So wrapping your mind around that, you know, if you take a step back and it's like, okay, cool, you know, you got 50 years that you're going to be living and exercising. So 50 years down the road, do you want to be trying to take a bunch of cleansing metabolic teas and stuff that makes you crap your brains out?
There it is.
Yeah, it's just come on.
Yeah. I like what you said, Will. You can't undo 30 years of damage in 30 days. Like, I think you hit it right there. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's a sham. It's a sham. All right, so we got another 5 minutes before we close out today. So we're going to go and tackle one of our Q&As that was submitted. Now, this is, I think, extremely fitting for today's topic, because it really shows the importance of defining what your actual goal is. And so the question was, how many miles should I bike to get the same cardio as running long distance? I think I would like to start on this one just because I think it really highlights the importance of needing to clarify. So biking equaling running, right? Like do you know, have a little bit more insight on it?
I do. Yeah. So it's funny. So I did reach out for some little bit more clarification. And basically this individual, he wants to get into running, but he hates running so much at the moment that he wants to stick to biking and eventually work his way up to running. So my understanding, he's trying to condition his body through biking to get better at running down the road, if that makes sense to the two of you. Yeah.
Gotcha. So from that perspective, physiologically, cycling and running are two completely different things, right? You can both utilize them to help improve your lung health, to improve your heart health, and improve your overall cardiovascular well-being. But if you want to get good at running, you have to run. Unless there is some injury or limitation that is preventing you, then yes, you know, bike in the meantime. But, you know, again, translate this to any form of sport, right? Like if you've got a MMA fighter, for example, and they need to get better at fighting, but you're spending all of your time doing swimming. It's like, okay, cool, you're better conditioned, but your fighting's still garbage. So physiologically, running and cycling are two, you know, completely separate things. So from my opinion, if you're looking to improve your running, you need to run. You know, it would be better to translate more walking and build from walking into running, because again, physiologically, those are going to be a lot closer together. But that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're in a stationary position, yet you're going to improve cardiovascular health. But the minute your foot makes contact with the ground and you run 1 mile, you're going to notice that 15 miles on the bike doesn't translate very well into the 1 mile run just because of the foot ground contact. So you're absolutely right. You have to get better at running in order to get better at running. I think, though, because I'm trying to make it work in my head, is if you have a pretty solid resting heart rate and you have good cardiovascular health, my guess is you will do okay, but nonetheless, because you're not using your legs, because you're not standing, you're still going to struggle. So I feel like what you said, start off with walking and just go for running. But for the most part, if this dude's biking mad miles, go right into the running, man. There's no reason to wait. Just go right into it. So.
Exactly. One of the interesting things for the certification that I'm working through is 8 weeks out, and it's just centered all around conditioning. And one of the primary things that they discuss is how our energy and endurance levels are partially determined by our brain's processing of the environment that we're in. Which again goes back to, you know, you take a weightlifter who, let's say, trains in his home gym all day, every day, and then you put him out on a competition platform in an environment that he's never been in before, and he can deadlift 500 pounds in the garage. You put him on that competition platform and he can only deadlift 460. It's because it's a new environment, new stimuluses, and the brain doesn't have that conditioning. So same thing, you know, you're conditioning your brain to get used to the running environment.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope. 100% agree with the two of you. One thing I would recommend to not only this individual, but to anyone who is trying to get into running, it's like John and Will say, start off slow. Yes, starting to walk. If you are pretty above average with your cardio, then I recommend running at least a mile, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and slowly increase your mileage from there. Big reason why I ran 11 miles today and why I wasn't killed over on the floor dying is because I started slow and I built my aerobic capacity to get those 11 miles. So that'll be my big piece of advice is start off small, start off a mile, 2 or 3 times a week, and eventually build your mileage from there as you get faster and better at maintaining that 1 mile pace.
Gotcha. One other note that I would like to add as well, too, for this particular individual is asking them why they're wanting to get better at running, right? Like if you're wanting to get better at running, like you mentioned for a marathon, perfect, run. But like myself, for example, I absolutely hate running, but I do know the importance of cardiovascular fitness. So I just bike instead, right? Because I can get the benefits of cardiovascular fitness from cycling. So I'll run if I have to, but if I don't have to, it's definitely not something I program.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Any other closing notes, or actually one thing for Taylor, I think might be beneficial if you put together kind of a platform for runners, like just maybe a little 4 to 6 week beginner running program. Throw that up on your Instagram. Maybe it's kind of a free download for people to go check out, get some stuff rolling.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Definitely look into that.
Cool.
Day 1, 20 miles. Day 2.
Here we go.
20 miles.
Day 1, marathon.
60 deadlifts.
And then we'll say, don't you really want it?
Clearly,
it's
you
not
weren't dedicated enough if you didn't
Clearly.
do this.
Clearly, fitness isn't important to you.
All right. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and close out for today. Appreciate having you guys on, and we'll be back again next week.
Yes, sir.